Hello and welcome to the 19th webinar in 12D's Industry Solutions webinar series. My name is Lisa Stewart and I'm the Marketing and Communications Coordinator here at 12D Solutions. Our Industry Solutions webinars are designed to provide insights into overcoming challenges in an evolving industry in more effective and efficient ways. We'll continue to run these webinars regularly and record them for posting on our YouTube channel and website. Our first 18 webinars from this Industry Solutions series, as well as the first 15 webinars from our training series, are available online if you missed those. Today's webinar, 2016 in Review, will be presented by Dr. Lee Gregory, who is the Managing Director and co-founder of 12D Solutions. In this webinar, Lee will review all the exciting news from the year that's rapidly drawing to a close. It's certainly been a big one for 12D. He will also provide some fresh sneak peeks at future directions we'll be taking. Over to you, Lee.
Thank you, Lisa. And welcome everyone to today's webinar. 2016 has been an exciting year for us at 12D. It started with our users being bombarded with vague demands for BIM and digital engineering. And now at year's end, everyone is realising that civil BIM and digital engineering is exactly what our 12D model users have been doing with 12D model for the past 25 years. It is only now that the rest of the world is catching on. So better late than never, I suppose. Anyway, let us get started and look at some of the 2016 highlights in the 12D world. During the year, 12D model was continuing to be enhanced and new versions came out of it, which we put up on our websites for people. So that happened during the year, but our major work was on 12D model 12. That's what the programmers were working on, and basically getting it ready for release, which started just after our conference, where we allowed people who came to the conference to get the technical preview version, and so it came out in about October. So that was a major big things from us this year on the 12D model side. We also had 12D Synergy 3 was released this year, again adding great functionality to that product. The 12D International Conference was a great success at the end of July, and we'll be talking about that through this talk today. And we had our Innovation Awards, which coincide with our conference. And we have now our industry solution webinars, which Lisa just mentioned. There's now been 17 or 18. This is the 19th of those for the year. They start this year. And of course, our training webinars, of which we've now had 15. So they all started and have happened this year. With YouTube, we've got our 12D model and 12D Synergy channels, and I'll look at those a bit later on. And we also have perpetual and all subscription licenses. I think the main thing to say there is we have had subscription for the last 25 years, and most of our customers, though, have been by purchasing perpetual. The big thing is that you still can have either. You don't have to only have subscription, you can still choose perpetual. So nothing has changed there. We haven't changed any of the conditions on you. We also have credit card facilities, which we've been allowing people to send information to put them on credit cards. So there has been a few changes as we've worked through this year. We've also been modifying our website, 12d.com, and we'll see some of that in use as I go through today's webinar. So this is our site here. Just letting you know our head office will be closing from the 23rd of December to Monday the 9th. Although our support lines will still be open from Tuesday the 3rd of January. So what's happened during the year? Well, first we had our what's new in version, or what's coming in version 12 webinars. And if you click on the forum on our website there, it'll actually go to a section where we actually did it this time as webinars rather than physical presentations where I was running around the country. They've actually all they've been recorded and they're up there. It came in 3 parts, and so they're all up there for you to have a look at on our website. So you can catch up on those rather than having to see them at the various venues. Now, what did come in 12D Model 12? Well, there are over 300 new things in 12D Model 12. I'm not going to go through all of them now since there's ample information there. I just will mention some of them though. And most are described in our What's New in 12D Model 12 PDF. So there's about 250 pages, which goes through a fair bit of it. And that's also now all been put in our 12D Model 12 reference manual, which is a PDF. So some of the things that have happened with 12 is we're using the PDF file of our 12D Model reference manual as rather than before where we had WinHelp. So both the reference manual and the programming language manual or the macro manual are installed as PDFs on your computers at installation time. We found with a PDF, the bulk information can be more easily read and printed out. The other types of helps, HTML and so on, you only can see pages at a time, where here you can print out large sections and read it much more easily. So the PDF under Help 12D Macro Manual, it now comes up with the programming language PDF. And on the 12D model, it'll come up with the 12D model reference manual. This has been going for many years. There's about 8,000 pages in it, though a lot of people weren't looking at it enough because the online help was not as easy to use. The big thing, though, is that the context-sensitive help. That's when you press the F1 key over a menu or panel, or the help button on a panel. And the information then comes out of that's called context-sensitive help, because it knows where you're coming from. So in version 12, it's also going to be the 12D model reference manual. That's used for the context-sensitive help. So if you hit on a help button, it'll take you, such as this option here, it'll take you into the PDF file. So you've still got the whole reference manual there, so there's now just one document being used both for the PDF, for the reference manual and the online help. Similarly, most people might know that over menus or anywhere, if you hit the F1 key, again, it will take you then into that section in the context-sensitive reference manual. There are lots of little bits and pieces in version 12, things like autosave, picking in perspective OpenGL views, picking in plan OpenGL views. We could always pick in the perspective and plan views. It's just the OpenGL ones that we're having trouble with. And you can now have exaggeration for the perspective OpenGL views, where again, before that was only for the perspective views. Little things like all in the names.4d pop up, simple things like that to make information more easier for you and bulk rather than huge lists, and those sorts of things going all through 12D model over time. And with tins, you can set attributes for tins, you can rename certain tins, copy a tins from folder, copy models from a folder. Those ones are added in when people might get things maybe from backup and things like that. And you can't just use Windows, Microsoft to copy things into our project area because you'll screw the database up. So what you can do though is you can put the information into a folder and then copy it over from there using the options from Win12D model. That's the only way you should bring data back into an existing project. Otherwise you could screw up what we call the UIDs and things just won't work properly. So they're all there though to make life easy. Lots of things on exploding tables, trimeshes, dimensions, arrows and so on. There's a zip version of the 12D XML, and the 12D XML is starting to replace the 12D ASCII, especially in, it's the same information, it's just a lot more people prefer now an XML version rather than the 12DA. And so as you can see, lots of small things we've added in, which I won't mention all of them. One thing is people have asked for a while is when you have data, you can now find a boundary polygon for it. And just to point out, there's two ways here. If you do nothing, it just gets the convex hull, as it's called, which is the outer. But you've got things in there you can put in. The same sort of thing is using triangle knolling on angle, length, and combine length, so it'll get a much tighter fit. A very important thing with high resolution screens and tablets is to be able to blow up your icons, so they're much larger. So out in the field, you want them so you can hit them with your finger, because if they're too small, you can't differentiate. But the problem on high resolution, like 4K monitors, is everything then is much, much, much smaller. So again, you might be able to see it or read it. And we've set these things separately, so you can blow up the icons on your views separately to the icons, say, in toolbars. And we also can blow up the icons on and text on your panel. So they're independent, because some of you may want larger, but maybe not all of them. So now you can make settings, so there's an example there on the views, and they can be totally independent to say things on the CAD toolbar. With dimensions and leaders, which were introduced in version 11, You can now have overrides, so you don't have to make lots and lots of different styles. So for various style you've got defined, there are various things in it. You then can say override, maybe the color of something, maybe the text used in it. So you can use the one style, but then they use these overrides. So you don't have to have a totally new style. And these can be set on menus and toolbars with overrides. So that'll make it much easier on how many styles you need for dimensions and leaders. A little small thing I'll just mention here is a thing we call, which I think you'll find very, very handy, is called view favorites and view positions. Now what this is, you'll see a little yellow star now in version 12 on all your menus, and if you click on that, it'll come up with favorites and create edit favorites. Now what there is, if you pick on it, it actually comes up with the same information that you have when you look at all the settings on your view. And what you're able to do is, you can see there's little ticks on the left-hand side there. You can actually, if you tick them on, these will be used. If it's ticked off, they'll be ignored. So you can take all these values, you can write this way to a file, which we call a view favorites file. And there's a different one for the plan views, to the section views, to perspective views, because they're all different type of information. But the plan and the plan OpenGL, they share the same one. And similarly, the perspective OpenGL share the same one. So once this has been written away, though, you can then apply it to another view. So you can pop up the list, and when you apply it to the view, it'll actually add all those models or all the settings to that view. You're also able to, with it, say use them when you create a new view, and on it there's a list of models to add and remove, and you can actually say, look, any models on the view, existing view, remove them first before I add on new ones. So there's quite a bit of flexibility. If it's using a new view, then obviously you don't have to remove any models, but it takes all the others on. So you can create a new view straight away and give it the information. So you just feed it in a new plan view, you give it the favorites file. So all your settings that you ever want can be set up first in the favorites file and then applied to a new view or applied to an existing view. You also, when you create a new view in a chain, you can also use the favorites there. And similarly, when you are creating a new view in a macro, you can give a favorites file. So basically, you can set all these things up with all your favorites to set things exactly how you want it. In fact, when a new project starts up, you know there's a file that's run which runs macros and chains. If you had all the new views you wanted, you could have them in there with the favorites, so they'll come back exactly as you want. So you don't have to sit there toggling things on and off. You also can use them in plot frames. Now what that means is a plot frame now can have all information that was not stored before saved in a favorite, so you can plot a plot frame without having to have a view. So those now can be made, put in a chain just like you could with the other long sections and cross-section plots, where you could run those without having to have do anything. You could just run them. So you'll be able to do the same with plot frames. And there's a new thing called multi-page plot sheet, which I'll mention shortly, which also can take favorites. The other thing is view positions. Now they're a sort of a cut-down idea of your favorites. They don't have all the information except just something about the position of what's on the view. So on a plan view, what you're seeing on the view, a perspective view, your eye and target positions and things. So again though, once you've got them, they have this various what we call viewport information, and you can apply it to an existing view of the same type. So very simple to do. You can just click one you've got there, and that'll zoom in, or however the settings were for viewing that view. Very good in perspective views, where you can have lots of different eye and targets you're looking for, and so they're in the list, so you don't have to keep, easy to get back to the same position. Now in version 12 C1C, oh actually I'm wrong there, it's actually in C1B, which was I think just, oops, it's coming. There's going to be a blue star on there as well on views. So you not only have the favorites, which is the yellow star, there's also a blue star. And what that does, all it does is give up the list, a list of view positions. So it's nice and quick. If you've got your view positions to set up, you just click on that blue star and pick one from the list, and hey presto, it'll take you to that position. The attribute manipulator, now this is something was going to be only in 12, but we brought it out early in V11 C1H and above. Not everything, we've extended it quite a bit for version 12, but people were needing to do a lot of attribute manipulation for BIM and other things earlier on. So basically in 12 it works with string, vertex, segment, and segment attributes and properties. So you can do things like take your segment properties and map them back to string properties, because a lot of systems can't have vertex and segment attributes. And so what you can do is you can say take something on vertex 3 and map it, and so you might give it a name with a 3 in it. You can do that automatically so you know which vertex it came from, and the same with the segment. So it gives you a way of getting that information onto a string where a lot of other systems do not have vertex and segment attributes. And you can come the other way backwards. You can come from that information on a string attributes, and turn them into vertex and segment attributes. There's a lot more properties and things, string properties, things like areas, length, 2D length, 3D length. Those have been extended quite a bit. Information then you can get from your strings and turn them into attributes, which you may want to use somewhere else or with another package. So if you haven't used the attribute manipulator, it's a fantastic thing. It also now works with model and project attributes, so they can be used as well, because it's a two-way thing too. You can take information, make string and vertex and segment and properties out of and go the opposite direction. And so it can create, delete, and manipulate attributes and properties. So you can use an attribute, say, of a size of a pit, and you can actually use that to apply that to the pit. The manipulator, you'll find, become very, very useful for when you have to have attributes and metadata, which someone always wants in a different way to what you may have had it. And so for things like BIM, GIS, ADAC, survey pickup and set out, all of these sorts of things, it'll become later, manipulate the data later on quite easily. So it's like we have the mapping file for string names and some other things. This is the same sort of thing, but for playing with attributes. There's also a labeling string attributes and properties. So this is like the label map file, but a new one which gives you a lot more information about being able to put leaders and things like that in it. So again, there's a video that Peter Tatum has done on that to go through it at the conference, and it'll be coming up shortly. So it's like a label map file, but it can allow a lot more information and leaders and setting up differently with a lot more power than just the straight map file. Now, Trimeshes were introduced into 11, which basically are a generalization of tins, because a tin can only have one Z value for any X and Y, whereas Trimeshes can fold back over themselves. So they're still made up of triangles. That's why we call it a trimesh, but then they can just make a closed object. That's what most people use for graphics cards and things as well. So we can now model all sorts of things. If you're modeling a road, you can model then the pavements underneath and so on, so they can go out to BIM systems, which are where they would need solids rather than just say cross-section information. And when you cut through these, you then see them as solids. So that's what Trimeshes were about. They were in 11, but we just kept adding new things for version 12. So the colors, a lot of things now that weren't working for them work. The color box, you convert Trimeshes, they can keep the string attributes of the things that had it. The global delete, rename now work for Trimeshes. Helmet transformation works on Trimeshes, the 2D and 3D, because what happens, you often get data that's come in from another system as Trimeshes, and they'll be in some strange 0-0 coordinate system. By using the 3D helmet, which basically is a rotation and a translation in 3D, you can then place it where it should be in proper, say, MGA coordinates. So if you don't realize, helmets, they're basically how you take information as a 2D and a 3D. So it'll say it'll scale, rotate, translate. So to take information really from one coordinate system into the one that you want. You can set now the colors of individual triangles in the Trimesh, and you can have vertex and segment information in the Trimesh. Now this is something, we didn't call them super Trimeshes, but a lot of people don't have this information. When we do an apply menu and we create a Trimesh, we actually can give the edges that have come from strings the names of those strings. And also we can put information on the vertices. So when the people take it out to the field to set out with 12D field, they can pick things in the Trimesh. You can pick a string to set out from the Trimesh. You don't have to have the strings as well. So it has all that information in one neat package. We added intersections. You can intersect lines of a Trimesh and a tin. You can find intersection lines of a Trimesh with other Trimeshes. And you can contour a Trimesh. So again, we keep adding extra things in for you, and people can make up trimeshes from what we call planar polygons. A planar polygon is just a polygon with not many sides. It has to be a simple one. It can't cross over itself. It can't have duplicate sides and things like that. So it's a simple polygon, but it's in the plane. So all the values lie in the one plane. And if you basically have a number of these things that match up the various edges, you can use the trimesh from 3D polygons, and it'll create a trimesh for you from it. And in the same example here, you can even keep the colors of the various polygons. And so in this case, it's got a purple face because that particular planar polygon was that color, and the cyan one is the base. Very useful for building up trimeshes from other data. You can split a trimesh along a string. Now what this is all about, you've got a long trimesh. It might be a road that goes for a couple of kilometres in pavement, and what this will do is you can then break it up. So we do get some people in bin systems where they've been asking, yes, we've got the pavement, but we want to break it up into 100-metre lots. So it's quite easy to do. It just splits it for you into individual trimeshes. So very, very handy option, very hard to do in most other packages. So trimeshes are now a fundamental part of 12D model, and you'll see this was a slide from the conference. We saw them used all through the conference in snippets and all sorts of places. So you'll see a lot of our videos and that we're always producing trimeshes. The other big thing that's happened is this BIM, which, as I mentioned before, beginning of the year, it was a vagary. People said, oh, we want a BIM model. And you'd say, what do you mean? And most people had no idea. It was just some vagary. They've been told they need BIM. But it stayed in now. People are starting to read ahead. BIM came into the UK, where it's mandated. And a lot of people then were saying, oh, well, we want a Revit file. We want a DGN or DWG. Well, if you read a bit further down in the UK system, that's exactly what they don't want for BIM. The whole idea about BIM is to use a format that's published so everybody can read and write it. So it's getting away from vendors locking you into proprietary systems. So people are starting to realise that. So as much as they're talking about BIM, they didn't read the next chapter of where the UK is going, saying you don't want to have, you've got to have interoperability between different software vendors. So that's a good thing about BIM. People are finally understanding what it's all about. So that was all where it came from, being software vendor neutral, and you needed some sort of open format. And strangely enough, 3D visualization was not always required. It was more the attributes and the metadata which a lot of people wanted. But in our world, and buildings and things, they seem to be concentrating on, yes, they want the 3D representation. That's no problem. It's in there as well, but it's not necessarily what the end users are often after. And that's where the attribute manipulator comes in, to allow you to pass a lot of extra data across its attributes into your BIM data. So these are examples of ones where we brought BIM in from other packages to combine with 12D model data. And so they can be quite complex, and so this is all being shown in our 12D model, just the various examples. And here's a house, I think, that came in from ArchiCAD, just straight into 12D. And of course, once it's in there, you've got all your other 12D options, like there was the house, but we then can profile it. Not just sections along a cross-section, but along the whole string, sectioning along a string, which a lot of packages can't do. So all our power, once the data is in 12D, we can use all our options on it. So basically, we've now, though, put a lot of these under a BIM menu. People sort of, they're there in all sorts of guises, but they've now got them in one spot, and we left them in the other places as well. So you go to the BIM menu to find them. So we can import, we can export, do all sorts of things with it. So now people are realising the whole idea about BIM is you'll be able to model your designs using 3D solids if you're going to have a visualisation, and that's why we introduced trimeshes. So you could do that for all the information that goes with a road, say. You want to be able to expect the designs in 3D. You want to be able to store and process the metadata or attributes associated with those 3D solids. Hence, we can do your attributes to tins, we can do attributes to trimeshes, and use the attribute manipulator to get them the correct shape. And people are now realising that civil data, and this has been the big thing over the years, totally different to some building, which often is 0, 0 in the corner and doesn't even use a geodetic coordinate system. So civil data is long and linear, where buildings tend to go vertical. So it's a totally different world. Our data changes every millimetre, whereas a building, you might have 1,000 chairs, but they're the same chair, or windows, 1,000 windows. Whereas a road and that changes every millimetre. So they are different. Civil BIM is totally different to a vertical building. And the challenges of civil BIM is it needs to be large scale, and you need to have a map projection. Otherwise your data's not going to fit. They're going to be large coordinates. They're going to be MGA, not somewhere around 0, 0. So you've got to be able to handle double precision coordinates. And you have to be able to model your design with 3D solids. You need to be able to look at the data in 3D, and you've got to be able to store and process all that metadata with it. And you need some sort of open standard to write the data around. Now, with IFCs, which is for Open BIM as it's called, in the it has IFCs as the method of getting data across. But the civil IFCs don't exist. We're working, though, with the international committees. I'm involved with the alignment IFC committee, also with the roads committee, the rail, the tunnels, and the bridges. And at the moment, we're working on just the alignment. So there's not even alignment in there at the moment. And we're working through that at the moment. So we'll be working on those with the IFC standards so civil data can really be moved around properly. And luckily, 12D Model is already a civil BIM system. Everything there we do already, and we have a format, 12D XML. It's published. Anyone can use it. It's not a binary, proprietary, lockdown thing. Anyone can read and write it, which gives you a method of transferring civil data until civil IFCs do become available. So you've already got it there right with you, a civil BIM system. Another one that people are using a lot in Queensland and spreading throughout Australasia is ADAC. Now this is where a number of authorities got together, which is great in itself, to come up with some common definitions of assets, the metadata and attributes that go with them. And so important that these people get together to define these things, what everything's going to be called, what your attributes are going to be called, exactly what they are, rather than just being, say, here's some data, make something out of it. And they're going to use one XML data transfer format. So again, there was a published format so everybody knew how to read and write it. And it was going to cover both as constructed and designed assets. And say it's all going to be freely available to industry, so it can be open. Now luckily the consortium got together, they provided what we call a schema for their XML, which makes it easier to read, guidelines about what those assets are, and that's the sort of thing people have to even do for any BIM, IFCs included. If someone's asking for a file in BIM, well they need to tell you exactly how everything's modelled. There are 10 different ways you might do a pipe or a pit or attribute. Whoever's asking for the BIM data should specify that right down so you know exactly what they're wanting in their files, and they should be, say, in IFC files. And luckily each of the authorities do exactly that. They provide you with the local guidelines to say exactly what they want and what they don't want and what they are with all pictures of it. And so that's how a real BIM system's done. Not just says, I want BIM data, you have to give all these definitions so everybody's on the same page. So with this, anyone who can read and write an ADAC XML file can pass it around between anyone else who can with any other software. So it's fantastic, exactly what a BIM's all about. So it is a civil BIM system. It's controlled by the IPWA, which is the Public Works Engineers in Australasia, and they've got an independent format that anyone can read and write. So the major vendors support it. 12D Model does. You can read it with FME, which can get you into most packages and places like Esri, MapInfo. As I say, it is a BIM system. So it's a fantastic example. So if a council somewhere starts using ADAC, they're really way down the road for using a BIM system because they've come to realise that it's that data, that digital data that's important, not your plots. They're all generated totally separately. So you want this proper 3D civil digital engineering data and get all your processes working for that. If another format comes down the future, like the IFCs, can replace ADAC, that's going to be simple because they've got all their processes now working properly. So to change to a slightly different format, open format, that's not the hard part. It's changing all their processes so they're using digital engineering and data rather than getting away from drawings and things. So we've been working with ADAC. We released it with 12, but in 11, but continue to improve it in 12. And with the attribute manipulator and 12D field, we cover both sides of it. You can take data from design data, you can set out with it and do as-built pickups. So we'll keep doing that for you and looking at producing even drawings automatically from that 3D ADAC data. So the drawing side then just becomes a push of a button. And it's the real data, source of truth is your 3D ADAC data, not a drawing. We support though ADAC 4.0, 4.1 and 4.2 was recently released. It's supported both in version 11 and version 12. Another thing we've got is we're now calling it 3 waters, and that's got a drainage, 1D and 2D, sewer for foul water, and water supply. So we're now talking about those as 3 waters, so you often now see us talking about 3 waters, and that's what they'll be referring to. And the idea, you can see the sheep there, because the 3 waters are used a lot in New Zealand. So we've adopted one of their things from New Zealand to use for everybody. So we've done a lot of extra things for the drainage 1D side in version 12, and you'll see that in the what's new. We've also done a lot of work in the drainage in the 2D side, using our TrueFlow engine in the background, so you can see how the water's going on the surface without having to do anything more than just provide your tin. So that's, again, a lot of new things done in there. But we've also brought in a brand new module called Dynamic Water Supply. So this is the 3rd water we didn't have before. So it's a new module, and basically it's the hydraulic analysis and water quality for pressurized pipe networks. So it's the one thing that's missing, which is straight water. You can simulate it. You can have pipes, junctions, pumps, valves, storage tanks, reservoirs, and so on. So it basically tracks the flow of water in each pipe. So that's the whole idea of it. Tracks the pressure each node, tracks the height of water in each tank, tracks the concentration of a chemical species like chlorine. So all those sorts of things you need to do, water age, and so on. So that's what it's all about. So doing water through maybe thousands of pipes. And you get lots of graphs out, just like you do with your dynamic drainage analysis, to show all this information. So I say that's a new module that's come in with version 12. Point clouds, look, we've been using and doing a lot with point clouds. There's a thing from our FIC conference in New Zealand and earlier in the year, and people look at that and say, look, that's fantastic, look at all that stuff. But anyone who knows a point cloud knows most of it's dumb data. Dumb data. It's points with nothing else that knows about it. You see there's things in there, a person or whatever, because your eyes is putting it together. So the problem with point cloud is how do you get sensible data out of it? Now people asked me at a conference recently when I was on a committee out the front, where will surveying be in 10 years' time? And my reply was, in 10 years' time, we'll never be talking about point clouds. Yes, they'll be used to pick up the data rather than surveyors going out physically doing it, but then the point cloud people who produce these things with their pickup machines, they will give you not a billion points, but they'll give you a table as a 3D object. They'll give you a sign there with some text on it and stuff like that. It's only now in the interim that we're getting millions of points, because people want the edges of the roads. They want the line marking. They want them as strings. But that's all happening, and bit by bit there's more and more things out there to do it for you. So yes, point clouds be used to pick up the data, but most people then don't want a billion points. They want physical data they can use, and that is coming bit by bit. But we do work with point clouds. I must admit I've only seen jobs up to about 3 billion points, but they're there. And we have our point cloud import. We continue to add into the different formats. You've got things like the E57, which is a industry standard, and also the LAS format, which most people use. And we've also got converters from various formats into our point cloud internal format. So there's more and more of theirs. So lots of these say new point cloud formats to read things in. The GeoTIFF DEM point cloud formats, we can read those in. And there's a lot for management with categories and looking at information by categories. Categories are in the LAS files, so you can have some of the data categorized like terrain or trees or whatever, and so we can turn that data on and off by categories. So you can delete point clouds data by, say, here's a tin all the data that's within that area I want deleted. So there's a lot of extra things there for us trying to clean up point clouds. And you can also undelete them. So they're like a tin where the points are still in the point cloud, but you just don't see them. So it's like nulling triangles. You can do the same thing with these point clouds. So basically, categories, lots of options to do things with. As you say, there's an example of these categories. You say which ones you want to see or don't see. So when you're triangulating things, you only use some of it. We can set categories in various methods. So if they're not already got categories, you can use 12 model to try and set some of them. You can say undelete and delete points. So there's another thing though where what we call point cloud drape. And what this is, if you've got points in 2D, just like you could drape them onto a tin, you can drape them onto a point cloud. So it'll find all the points above and below it or nearby of that string and then in the point cloud and then make a string out of it. So a very, very useful thing. Because what you can do is you can also, though, look at in what we call a 3D. So in this case, you're giving a width, but you can also give a height to it. And what you do when you give a height is, you've got your string, if it's then got Z values, it'll only pull out data around that 3D string inside that little width and height box. So this is to say, if you had a string and you have picked up data in point cloud, by pulling out that data nearby, you can say how close was it and so on. So for conformance and stuff like that, it's very, very useful. So that's, say, pulling data out by width and height by those. So, oh, sorry, that one, this is where when you've got a huge point cloud, you may say have something like an alignment string, and you just want to pull out data that's in a box. This is a great way of cleaning up data because you have this point cloud, and you know you've got your pavement, and so it should be a certain distance above and below your alignment string. So by putting this filter through it and picking out the box, you get rid of all data that's too high or too low, that's of no use in case you want to triangulate the data. With Tadpoles, or what people call cut and fill marks, there's now an option or part of MemTF to give you 1,000 different ways of creating these, and when they're created, between two strings, using a third, and so on. So if you're into Tadpoles, have a good look at those options. Another one, the final sort of ones here I'm mentioning, is the multi-page plot sheet. This is an extension of the plot sheet that was in version 11. In this case, it's not just one page. You can actually have it so it's made up of lots of sheets. So you can make up a sheet set, and then you can plot to a PDF all of them into the one PDF file, say. It's got both cross sections and long sections available in there, so you can pick individual cross sections or parts of long sections, or as many of you like of basic plan views. When you actually do it, you've got a quick draw facility, so you can more or less see what's going to be in the thing before you plot it. That can be also turned off. If you've got huge models, it might be slow, so you can optionally turn it on and off. And then you can plot selections of pages or all the pages of these things. So the other thing, though, we found is a lot of people have PDF files as well, and you might have produced a number of them in the multi-page plot sheet, but we also added an option in which allows you to take a whole list of PDFs and combine them into one PDF. So if you've, say, got 30 cross-section plots of cross-sections, you can make them into the one PDF file. And so you might have some things from the multi-page plot sheet, and you also might put in some cross-section plots and some long sections to make one set in one PDF file. So it's very, very useful now. The PDF is becoming the major way of people taking information drawings. We've also added lots of things to the plot parameter files. Now, I'm just going to flip through these quickly, but there's heaps of them, so a lot of things people have been asking for over the years are now in there. With a drainage, you can just pick one string out of a model to plot for the drainage side. With cuts, you now can put coordinates X and Y, X and Y, and Y and X. You can have both the internal and the external diameter for pits and pipes. Before we just had the internal. When you've got uprights at cuts and things, what you can now do is stagger them. Before they only appeared exactly where the cut was, but now you can have them staggered, so it looks at the changes in the change box and staggers them accordingly. So if you move this information down to a box that's got staggering, it'll stagger as well. So here's an example. I've got two values on there from the cuts, the diameter by looks of it, and another position, possibly the offset, and they are now staggered. So that makes things that people have wanted to do for quite a while. But you can have grids on long sections and cross sections and so on. They're there. You can label strings in corridors. So where you've got a string in a corridor where it projects it back onto your profiled string, you can now actually put things like the chainage of long and offsets for cross sections of those other strings or where they occur. You can put heights of it. You can have the minimum maximum heights for the whole string of things in the corridor. You can put the diameters of the round pipes or culverts, again, of things in your model inside your corridor. So these are strings that aren't actually cut by which would be the cuts, but things that are in the corridor beside it. You can put coordinates from the things there for a lot of these. And you can label the strings in that corridor with a name, a string name, a model name, and string and model attributes. So if you've got information that's not cutting, you can now, but you want it labeled in some way, there's a lot of extra options in there to do it. And you also can put symbols on it. There's a lot of power in there. One thing we introduced the long section is that you can now say, I just want the plot to be a fixed height so it doesn't go out the top of the sheet, and then you'll get auto datum breaks. So it'll automatically work those out for you, so you don't have to do anything at all and specify just now you give it a height, and it then total height for the plotting area, and when it goes outside that, it'll put in datum breaks. With the uprights on cross sections, before we could only have them where there was a primary string, which if you had natural surface cross sections, you're going to get lots of in lots of places. You can now give a user-defined interval, and you can even turn off the primary string ones. So there's a lot of extra things in there you can do. So in this case, we've got a combination where we've got the ones from the cross section itself, but also at irregular intervals. So if you had just a tin being profiled, you probably just want a regular interval. So thing that a lot of people have wanted for a while. And as I say, you can just choose, and here I've turned off my primary ones and I've just got my regular interval, but they're all combinations to do. You can plot the start and end of the primary string because it might have fitted in with either those sorts of things. And you can also plot out in the extension area. So this is outside your primary string. So where you're extended left and right a little bit, you can start putting uprights there as well. And you can put uprights in that left and right extension area, and these would have to be the regular ones because there's no string out there that you're profiling. So all those sorts of things are available now. So in this plot here, you'll see that outside the cyan primary string you're profiling, you can see some uprights going out to the left, right to the edge of the tin. So that's going to, a lot of people there will make their plotting of natural surfaces things much, much more powerful. There's another example there, which is just doing regular intervals out in that area without the extension. For cross sections, you could also label values at the points across the cross section. You can give its name, other information. You can now stagger those as well. So they'll actually fit in. So in this case here, I'm labeling the point names themselves, and I've got one that's being staggered down the bottom. So I've done a bit of both. ePlan. ePlan's been in New Zealand since about 2001. It basically means you don't have surveying plans as such anymore. You're giving to the government the information in a XML file. So it's replacing the deposited plan. So this XML data, so it's all part of digital engineering. So this is the next step for cadastral people to move into the world of digital engineering, and it's being introduced in Victoria, New South Wales and Queensland. So it's starting to come in. Its uptake, it's slow, but it'll start to accelerate like it did in New Zealand. And so we've been working with the governments, even though we've done it for 10 years in New Zealand, all our three states here are totally different to each other and totally different to New Zealand. So we're working with each of them to try and get them working. And so far we've had ePlans going for Queensland and New South Wales, and I think some people are now working on for Victoria. So it's all there. We'll continue to enhance that in 12 and into the other versions. For those working with ePlan. So just get onto your reseller if you're interested in working with ePlan, because it'll be like New Zealand, it'll be compulsory some down the path. With volumes, we've had a lot of areas where we've put start and end change, where before you could only do the volume for a whole string. So we've had a lot of extra things in there for sections to heights, sections to sections, tin to sections, so you don't have to do the whole string. We've also height range. We've also, for that one, we've allowed a start and end chainage and an interval when you're doing your height range ones. So a lot of these volumes we've been beefing up a fair bit. With the Trimeshes, in 11 you could do volumes in area and then collect them in different ways. What we also added then, you can break it up by chainage interval. So you don't have to break the Trimesh up, it just can do it and calculate it as though it was broken up. Chains, lots of extra things added to chains, plotting plot sheets, plotting multi-plan plot sheets, calculating extents, profiles on a section view, conditionals, is a multiple shared in, is a tin shared in, does a super alignment solve, does an apply MTF, is it valid? So that if you can check for those things so the chain can bail out saying, hey, there's an error here. A lot more of those sort of conditionals have been adding in. And there's also a go-to, when you have a conditional that's going to go somewhere, you can get a pop-up of all the labels that you can go to. So it makes that much, much easier to do. Lots of things for redrawing views, calc extents, minimizing views, maximum, resizing a view, regenerating a section view. You can tile all views. So again, it gives you incredible control in your chain over views. When you create them, as I mentioned before, you can use a favorite file. So you can have all the settings there when you actually, and you can also apply a favorite to a view because you've got that command for favorites. Well, that can just be recorded in a chain. So you can also not just only create a view with a favorites file, but you can apply a favorite to an existing view. Again, a lot of power for you in your chain to do things. You can play a wave file. So noise, you can compile chains, so that way people can't fiddle with them for you. So that's a nice little feature when you're going to issues with a lot of people in your company, but you don't want them to getting their little hands on them and playing with them. Macro calls, yes, lots of new macro calls, just like the chains. We add them in as people need them. So if you're into macros, there's a heap new ones in there for you. And with the macros, these have actually all been documented. And we brought the macro manual up so that everything in it is now documented, and so the PDF will contain everything you need, and if there isn't one, just let us know. We've added in heaps of XML reports. What we did though, we did it in such a way that we could still have the original report that there was, what we call the legacy reports, but then we have the XML file so you can start making your own customized reports. For all of them, we've usually provide at least one decent, like an HTML report, but you then can go and customize those to your heart's content or make up totally new ones. So, but the existing ones are still there, so if you've got macros that use existing text reports, you can still produce them as your legacy reports. And the good thing is, when you go to 12, that your any of the DDX files or change or SLXs, they know about this, and so they'll still run. And they'll still look and know how to use the legacy. So we don't break any change when we've added in this extra thing for these reports. So basically, you've got on all these things a new report type, and the choice, one of them is a legacy, and that will give you exactly as you did in version 11. And any of the SLXs or DDXs that you have, they'll understand that. So it won't break anything for you. And wherever there is, there may be an HTML report. The original XML will be there, or you may have your own customizable reports. So, and we've done them for lots and lots of places. So we've done a lot of the, here's an example here of a legacy report, and then we've done an HTML report and the same sort of thing. And you could do PDF reports if you wish. It's just up to you. And we've added them lots of all the end area volumes. They're all in there, the section type ones, the exact volumes. They're the ones that people often wanted to change. So we've gone and done virtually every volume we could find that's got both types. The Trimeshes volume along an area, Trimesh volumes along a string, they're all got these XML reports. And any new report we do is done as XML reports as well. And so there's things for tin, surface area with a polygon, cross-for offset, string names, the network your code meter. There's all XML reports for those, so you can start customizing them. With tunnels and structures, we've actually now got two definition styles. The traditional one we had in 11, which is a profile type of one, but now inside your in V12, your MTF and snippets can do all of those tunnel commands. So now you can widen, come in, you can do everything you could do like with the normal template for tunnels. So there's options there. So if you've got a tunnel profile, you can create a snippet from it to do it for you. So it makes it easy to go if someone's just giving you a drawing of a tunnel profile to be able to construct something to use in an apply MTF or an MTF file. So you'll find a lot of extra work there in the tunnels and structures side as people are moving into digital engineering, because often we have to recreate this data because the people who may have designed it just do not have the capability that 12D model has. You can do things like, here's your thing, an MTF. You can say, look, I want a profile along the superstring, out as the superstring. So it makes you cutting it through it. So you can reverse it. You can get a profile anywhere along your string. Survey, we've got our standard, we've got 12D field pickup, we've got 12D field set out, and we've also added in a 12D tunnel, and that's a new module for version 12. I won't say too much about it because we'll see in our examples, and there's ones of our customers using it on big tunnels at the moment. So those videos will give you more of an idea of what's going on. So basically, it also ties in a lot with obviously your scanners, so you can actually use a scanner out there and you can limit it from 12D to say then what data do you want and control your scanners. So in a lot of places it's replacing where people are using total stations. They now use scanners exactly the same way and can take all the data inside 12D and work with it. With pickup, a lot of things people there, you've got a lot more extra buttons and keys. You can make them larger and smaller and set them up so in the field they're much easier to use. So we've also got an option that has the calculations for your 12D field to go much faster. So because often you just want it processed and just see it rapidly in the field, and so it can just do some things and leave out some other processing so you can see the results much faster as you're walking around in the field. A lot more user-defined commands, buttons and things to go with your pickup and set out. And if you've been having trouble with those tablets out there with buttons and things, just talk to our people, because now you can virtually do everything you want and set it up so it's much more easily working on a small tablet out in the field. The GPS, most of those are using the standard NMEA string, and we support them. We found a few variations of the theme for some of the vendors coming in, and as they refine them, we try and work with them. So as you say, most of the GPS units are supported by 12D field. With the instruments over time, we start off with Leica robotics, then moved on with the Topcon robotics and comparative shock ears. We've added in continuous Leicas over the time, and then in version 11 we did the SciTech SPS series robotics and the MS50 scan station robotics from Leica. So you see we've added these instruments to 12D field over time. With version 12, we've added in the Leica scan station MS60, and that's where we use that with all these tunnel face scan options. We can define things by various ways and we control the scanner. So it's the MS60 has got a lot of support in there, but again, all the other types of ones, if we can support, we do similar things. We can download, convert and download the data from these things into a 12D point cloud. So we can pull down the data from the scan station quite well. And the other thing we've done for version 12 is there's a new Trimble connection, which has been supplied by Trimble, which allows us to talk to the Trimble S-series instruments. So all those that we couldn't speak to before are now totally available with it. It comes for free. You don't have to pay anything to Trimble or whatever. It's supplied to everyone. And bit by bit, we're testing all the instruments. We've got S6s and S8s that work quite happily. And again, if you're in there using cable, direct Bluetooth or serial radio, just contact us so we can start working with you and iron out any problems there are as well. It works with any Windows tablet, 7 or above, so it doesn't even have to be a special tablet. And it's got the full functionalities, again, managed from the 12D model tablet. So it does everything that you used to do before with this series that you could do with your other tablets, with your other instruments. Right, just now, some other bits and pieces. Just looking at our website there. 12D model synergy, what's changed there? Well, basically, there's been a whole lot of new things, but it's file replication server, the data sync, and your connections. So they're all been added in, and the Synergy website will give you a lot more information about it. And again, there'll be videos from the conference going through all of these new things. If you go onto our website and click on the 12D Synergy, it'll take you to the 12D Synergy website, which there's a separate one, which again has got a lot more information for you. With their website, our conference, that was a big thing we had during the year, was our conference, and we had 400 people coming, and it was mining your data with 12D. That was the theme this time. We had 24 talks by industry people, 90 birds of a feather. That's where we break up into the different areas for the three waters, synergy, surveying or design, where you do specialty things there. There was exhibition area, and we went through what a lot of the things were coming at the time in 12D Model 12 and Synergy 3. We also had a guest speaker, Alan Duffy, a welcome event and the dinner. So it went very well with our innovations. Our main talk this time was by NorthConnex, and what they were talking about there, this is just some slides from it, and I'll just pop the thing there. It's basically a big tunnel they're doing. It's the longest and deepest road tunnel in Australia, so it's longer than all the other ones in Sydney combined, basically. And combination of various people, but the speakers came from the French company there. And so it's connecting when you're coming from Brisbane and want to go south to Melbourne. It's a missing link, so you don't have to leave the expressway or see any traffic lights. So it's a very important part of our system. It's basically twin tunnel, 16.3 kilometres, ramps, heaps of cut and fill, and they've got 19 road headers working on it. They're doing those from 4 places where they're putting in the road headers. So it was a fantastic talk. There's a road header, and they were using Leica's 12D model and the tough pads and 12D Synergy for all the data. And I think even after a few months, they've already got 25,000 survey files in 12D Synergy. So it's a fantastic thing. And what they had to do is they got the plans and things that were done. They produced 3D design models in 12D model, so they then can set them out in the field. So this is all in 12D model, and so everything can be constructed from the 3D design. So this is civil digital engineering in action on a decent job. So with it, there's the road headers. They've now 13 of the 19 are in action. Down there starting to dig it out. So it's a very interesting talk. It's on our website if anyone would like to go through it. So they're doing everything there, tracking all the data inside then 12D Synergy. So they've got full audit trails, so they've got every single point is in there. And as they're doing it, they're getting live as-built models from the data. So it's, as you say, it's digital engineering in action. And on the right-hand side is the 3D model, and on the left-hand side is the pickup as they're doing is the as-constructed pickup. So this is digital engineering happening today now for everybody. Producing tunnel conformance plots of it directly out of it, so they don't have to do anything by hand. Rock bolts, there's 350,000 rock bolts which have to do plots of it, again totally done automatically, so they know how to do it. And even interesting like heat maps, basically transforming some data and showing it on the tunnel itself, depths and things like that. It's a fantastic way of looking at data. So they're using all these techniques, and our 12D model tunnel field tunnel option is being used successfully there. So they try to make it all automated. It's all live. All the staff are using the same database. So they've been able to do eliminate double handling and so on. So I say this is digital engineering in action with 12D model and 12D Synergy. It's been happening. So basically, it's been a fantastic system for them that's now in action, so they can do more at the workplace rather than having to go back to an office and slow down their headers. And they can easily detect clashes and problems right there in the field. It's so important. And remove manual processes. So in the future, they want to just expand that more and more real-time reporting. So again, they can be all done in the field, and numerous, hopefully, tunnel projects they'll win on the future to apply this technology to. At the conference, the other sorts of talks, we had AECOM, Arab, Oricon, Barwon Water, Brisbane City Council, Bundaberg Council, Christchurch, Cook Costello, Dalton's, Engineering Solutions, GH&D, Gold Coast Council, Queensland Transport Main Road, SMEC, Subterra, WSP, Parsons Brinkhoff, all gave talks about how they're using 12D model and 12D Synergy. We had a welcome event, so everyone could get together on the Sunday night, because it goes for Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, so they all can get to know and start asking questions. And we had Alan Duffy, who's actually a research fellow at Swinburne Uni, and he talked about gravity waves, comparing universes on supercomputers, and life on Mars. So a very entertaining speaker, and it was fantastic having him there for the afternoon. He even had the people then doing some physical things about how Einstein's theories work and warp space-time. We also had a conference dinner, which everyone enjoyed, and our entertainer there was Peter Berner, who was a fantastic comedian. Most people probably know of him. We also had our 12D Synergy Reseller of the Year, which went to 12D New Zealand. So that's James Irwin accepting his prize there. He's done a fantastic job with Synergy over there. And for 12D Model, EXDS in New South Wales, that's Tony Ingle, who looks after New South Wales, Canberra, ACT and South Australia, and they made the most sales in this past financial year. So the theme of the conference was mining your data with 12D, and basically all the talks that were given there, they're all getting data out of with 12D and mining it to use it in all sorts of ways. So basically it was a fantastic conference of showing how your data is mined with 12D, both 12D Model and 12D Synergy. With that, on our, if you go to our website, there's the YouTube playlist. Most of those main talks are going up on and most of them are there now from the conference, so you can go and play them through and listen to those talks. So you just have to click on there and it'll take you to the YouTube where they're all there for you actually to play. So there's a YouTube playlist there for you for this conference and our previous conferences as well. Finally, the International Innovations Award, which you also had that evening. We had Banishing the Drafting Demon, which is one I had for this year, where Duncan Whiteleaf and Paul Cooper and Blackley won that award. The Drainage, Sewer and Utilities was Mal Pika for Engineering Solutions Queensland. The Survey Construction was David Greaves from Transport and Main Roads. The Customisation was Niall Bradley from Arab Cardno Joint Venture. Design and Visualisation was Aidan Rinkhoff from Sunshine Coast Council. The 12D Synergy was from David Healy and Philip Stoddard were there from J. Wyndham Prince, which is a New South Wales group. The Gold Award, we actually had two of those. One was SMEC, so we had Joshua Allison, Michael Bazikis and Avrin Javatia from SMEC. And also we had a combined one where the David Mayers from the Lendlease Boyers joint venture, which was the tunnel project, the main talk, they actually also got the Gold Award. So it was fantastic. Congratulations to all those people. And there's a group of them, the ones, all the winners on that night. Now, our 12D webinars are just almost the end here. These are the things that you're actually listening to now. So you see, I go to our website, we've got those industry solutions seminars, which we then post afterwards on YouTube, a playlist, and also our 12D training webinars. So all that we have are there for you to look at any time. The training, the 12D model training, again, that's all on our website, so you can go in there. It's there for all the different states. And we're now doing, for 2017, we've got new integrated training courses with the new data set. And you'll actually, it's broken into 2 to 4 hour units, so we can put them together for in-house training in lots of different ways. So they'll all have documentation for each of the units, so it's much easier to take them and work on just parts of them. The product updates, for those who don't realise, we put the things up on our website. So C1K is up there at the moment, then C1 and version 10 and 9 are up there as well. We go through a bit of a staging process. They first go on our beta forum, then our 12D model forum, and then they finally go to our website. So if you're on our 12D model forums, you will get them faster than on the website. So, and you could go to our 12D model forum. Again, it's on the website. You click on that, and when you're in the forum, there's a whole lot of areas where you can post information, get information. And under the one there for software downloads, you'll see on that there's a version 12 C1B, so that's the second release of version 12, so anyone who's on maintenance can actually get version 12, and version 11 C1M, which is up there, and it hasn't gone to the full forum yet, so it goes on here first before we release it or turn on the update checker. So make sure you get onto the 12D model forum. One little hint when you're on the forums is there's a little one up here called View Posts Since Last Visit. If you click on that, it just shows you the things that are new since your last visit. And that is usually a much, much smaller subset of things. So that's a very good one to know. Just click on that, and it just says what's new. You have a look at that. Then when you come in next time, you just hit that one again. Our YouTube channel, there's actually up there it's actually now got 400 videos up there, so certainly go and have a look at it, register yourself. We put all our information up on the YouTube channel, and there's heaps of playlists. So you'll see there's survey, construction, design, our training webinar, the CAD ones, visualization, all our conferences. So they're all up there so that they're all together, so you can go and have a look. Say there's now 400 videos up there, increasing it all the time. Similarly, there's other ones up there. There's the 12D Synergy channel and also the 12D Trainer, the XD Trainer one. So you can click on there quite happily, and lots of extra information as well for you in those two areas. And there's ones from EXDS, a lot of training videos they've got as well. So there's a huge number of things on the YouTube for you to go and look at and learn from. So, for Alan and I, it's been a fantastic 25 years. This was our Silver Jubilee conference. We've been going for the 25 years, so it's been a fantastic journey. And we've seen so many things in 12D Model 12 that were our plans from 25 years ago. They're finally coming to our fruition. And it's also seen the birth of our new product, 12D Synergy. So we've appreciated it. It's been a fantastic time. And so Alan and I and all our staff and resellers look forward to continuing working with you in 2017 and beyond, because we've just started to do the great things that we've always been looking forward to doing. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Lee. The recording of this webinar will be available in coming days through our website and our YouTube channel. That was our last public webinar for 2016, but we've got some great webinar topics already lined up for 2017. We'll have sessions on 12D Track, MTF, pavement design for construction, BIM workflow, and much, much more. We'll keep updating the website with more topics as they're set, and also keep you posted through email and social media. That concludes our presentation for today. Thank you for attending, and we hope to see you at future webinars.